teaching with me is Carlos or Diego. We're both from Texas, Austin area. And as a bonus, Dalos is around here somewhere. He's going to hang out with us. He's a new warlord from Cali, so we'll definitely allow him to throw some input in as well, because he just recently came up through the struggle, so congrats to him. But we'll get him to have his input. So this is Combat Computer. We're going to talk a little bit about, first of all, thank you all for coming. I know it's not easy to get here, and it's not easy for us to get here either. We spend a lot of effort to get here, and we do that because we want you to get the most out of it. So the point I'm making is really be an interactive learner here. Ask a lot of questions, you know, involve yourself. Think about what you want to take home. Try to find like one or two things. You won't remember everything. It's just impossible, but try to find one or two things or watch the video later and you can get the rest of them. But think about those things and what you want to work on as well. Along those lines, what I like to do when I start all my classes is go through, introduce yourself real quick, and let us know like one thing you're really hoping to learn from this class. I got material for this class for ages and ages. I could teach for 4 hours, but we only have like 90 minutes. So I want to make sure I cover, first of all, what you guys especially want to learn, and make sure we get that taken care of, all right? So we'll start over here, your name, where you're from, one thing you're hoping to learn.
I'm Astro, I'm from the RW. I'm mostly hoping to learn something I can teach to other people back in my home park personally.
Okay, cool.
I'm Bane from the Rising Winds as well. I don't have any idea what I'm wanting to learn. I'm just here to soak it up.
There we go. Soak it up.
Farley from the Rising Winds. Just looking to diversify shot selections, transitions, other things like that.
Okay. Cool.
That is from Virginia, so Crystal Groves. And I just want to learn whatever you guys got to teach.
All right.
Not for anything.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Screw, also from the Rising Winds down in Kentucky. Combat Computer sounds like a class where, you know, we think about the motions, mechanics, all that stuff. So it sounded like a good place to come to kind of get some of my thought train in line with something that's more efficient. Stop thinking too much, start thinking about the right things, hopefully.
Cool.
My name's Hobie. I'm also from Virginia, so Crystal Groves. I kind of have like my own idea of how I want to fight, but like classes like these that focus a lot on the mental stuff, they usually do a good job of helping me like gain perspective on like different things I hadn't thought of. So I just trying to widen my perspective.
Cool.
I am Rook from the Nine Blades. That's Ottawa. It's far away. Ottawa's in Ontario. And I'm here just to like learn what everyone else is doing, what I'm doing wrong, what we could be doing better, and like spreading up north as well.
Okay, cool.
Bird from the Nine Blades, and I want to learn what I don't know.
All right.
I'm Kiri from. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, do you want to go first? Oh, okay.
Sorry. Thrash from Crystal Groves, just outside Baltimore. Just want to hopefully kind of figure out how to kind of hone my mental processes in terms of like learning how to break down fights, and like, because I always feel like I've not been great at analyzing fights either while they're happening or afterwards, and I want to kind of work on that aspect of fighting.
All right.
My name's Kiri. I'm from Erdoth. That's in Utah. I play Bell. I just want to basically have a better mental focus and mental game, and what I should be like really honing in on, what I should just be kind of not focusing so hard on when it comes to mental processing and how I fight.
Okay.
I'm Kilty. I'm from Emerald Glades in Ohio. Kind of like Thresh said, I'd just like to learn more about processing the fights after, win or lose, kind of why, what happened, and be able to break it down and process that.
Cool.
I'm Loki from Columbus, Ohio, and I feel pretty much the same way. I feel like I'm better at doing that like post-fight, like analyzing the fight afterwards, but transitioning that into like an in-the-moment while we're fighting thing is something I feel like I struggle with a little bit. So.
I'm Xander from Winter's Edge. My big thing is 2 years ago, this was the class that gave me the most power up over all the classes I took, because it completely changed the perspective of how I analyzed fights. So there's always more to learn from you guys, and that's why I'm back.
All right, welcome back. I'm glad it helped.
I'm Baiku. I'm from Dragon
Dragon Spine out of Albuquerque. And yeah, I'm looking for how to read, know what to try to get more information safely, and then, yeah, use
Okay,
it.
perfect.
I'm Derek Crownguard, Thorndor, Illinois. I'm looking to understand more about reading an opponent and how to game them to get them to go where I want.
Yeah, talk about that.
I'm Kira. I'm from Dragon Spine, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm looking forward to like learning, or what I want to learn is I want to learn how to like analyze, and in the moment, because I mean it's kind of like you said, like I can break it down and watch video afterwards and be like, well, I screwed that up, but I can't really do that in the moment very well.
All right.
I'm DeVry, I'm from Washington State. I want to learn how to plan, execute, and evaluate in a fight. Kind of, I fucked that up. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Tyrell. I'm from Emerald Hills, and I'm pretty much here to just learn what it is.
All right, and the aforementioned Dalos, who like I said, we'll get him to jump in and help us a little bit on combat computer, so I'll have some good perspective, I'm sure. You guys here for combat computer?
Oh, no, I'm trying to find giant buttons and basic.
Okay, cool.
Is this?
So, your opponent will tell you certain things, but you should pay attention to some basic things right away, right? When you get into a fight, what are the things you think that you should look for immediately when you approach someone? For the first time, if you don't know them, like, what are the things that you should put together to say, okay, this is kind of what this fighter is about? Any ideas?
Where their hands are?
Where their hands are, okay. What do you mean by where their hands are?
Like, are they way up high, or is he keeping it kind of lazy and relaxed? Is it really like rigid? Is it?
Okay, their guard position. What else?
Their feet.
Their feet. Okay, that's very good. Are they left foot forward or the right foot forward? You know what's their stance?
I guess there's sensitivity to like pressure. You know, like if you're kind of trying to juke them or something like that, how flighty they are with it.
Yeah, that's a little bit later, but yeah, that's a good point. We'll get to that one then. What else?
Handedness.
Handedness. There we go. Right-handed, left-handed. Super important. You have to pay
Where
attention.
they've got their weight shifted.
Where they got their weight shifted, yeah, so their stance. Again, if they're heavy on their front foot, if they're heavy on their back foot, that tells you a lot. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anything else that you guys?
Where their attention is?
Huh?
Where their attention is? Because just because you're looking at them doesn't mean they're looking directly at you.
Yeah, for sure. That it?
How they react when you step towards them.
Yeah, he kind of mentioned that, but yes, you probably didn't hear him. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit later. I'm talking about you step up and you see someone, like what are you looking for?
Like obvious baits, whether the shield's low or they're...
Yeah. You can look at their guard and their weapon position. How about how long or how short their weapon is? Yeah, think that's important. How about what kind of foot gear they have on? You can tell if a fighter's serious if they have on the fanciest, craziest, garbiest boots. Probably not so good for footing, right? They may or may not be serious. It tells you something. It's not necessarily 100% the truth. If they have on good gloves. Like if you see gloves like this, or like lacrosse gloves that people wear, or like MMA gloves, this is a person that's serious about fighting. If you see, crazy cork gloves, then maybe not. But maybe they are, but you're just gathering information, right? So that tells you something. So definitely look at that. Look at their swords. Are their swords like very decorative, crazy, curved, like, falchion things that are likely going to be not as effective? Well, that probably tells you something, right? Not that you should ever underestimate anyone, but at least you get an idea. If you're looking at someone who's using a good length, 34 to 36, probably ideal if you ask me, and they have on good hand gear, and you can tell they have on cleats or something like that. You're like, okay, this is someone who's serious about fighting. I've never seen them before, but they're probably someone who's serious about fighting. So right away, that gives you some information just looking at them. And then, you get into, okay, they're a left foot forward, they have a board. How big's their board? Is it a punch or not? That's very important. You know, is it low strapped or not? Also important. You know, you can figure those things out too. Where's their default board position? These are things you can kind of pay attention to and figure out as you go along. Their grip on their sword, which no one, I don't think, talked about. If they're choked, if they're not choked, right? If I have a longer sword, but I spend the whole time choked, I don't really have a longer sword, right? I mean, I could potentially get some range on it, but most of the time, I'm taking away quite a bit of range if I stay choked all the time. And there's people who do that. They think it's a good way to block their hip. So it's just something to note about how they hold their sword. So right away, there's those things. Anything else? Did I miss anything you think?
Maybe their garb.
Their garb? Yeah.
Company colors at least.
You come out and if they have all the look that they fight, but they're, you know, in gym shorts and a shirt, these guys are just there to fight.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. But there's a lot of people, like this one right here, for instance, will have very nice garb on almost all the time, and he'll more than likely wreck you. So,
I'm certainly not saying wearing garb makes you shit.
No, because you're also one of those people that wears very nice garb. But if you do see someone wander out in a t-shirt, but they have on like cleats and nice gloves, then you should be like, uh-oh.
I mean, you can tell, you can determine from that they're not here for the RP.
Yeah,
they're here to fight.
They're here for fighting, and they do that all the time. Yeah, actually,
To that end, I would say, you know, garb may or may not be an issue because some people have really nice garb and they're really good fighters, and some people have very nice garb and they're not. But there are a couple of things clothing-wise that I would look at, and there are a couple of things gear-wise that I would look at. If somebody's wearing company colors and it's something on like a jersey or something like on a hoodie, something where somebody's gone out and put, you know, their own money towards something that's not even garb just to fly their colors and stuff like that, that's somebody who takes the game pretty seriously and spent a lot of time on it. They obviously feel confident enough to have that. I mean, if I saw somebody with a jersey with their colors on it, I would be like, wow, that guy's really sunk some money into this. He must be pretty good.
Yeah.
Another thing is, it's not as standardized, but some people have begun to recognize tech. You know, they can look at this and say, wow, that's a Warlord Sports sword, or wow, that's a New Mexico sword, or wow, it's one of the Black Caliber, you know, ultralights, or whatever. People who go out and get those things, if you can recognize that, then that's obviously one measure of, you know, how committed they are to fighting, at least.
yeah, I really like ripstop covers is a very good indication of someone that's using like new tech and is down with kind of the new meta. Even though this sword doesn't have a ripstop cover, the other ones do.
Big buffers.
Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, Bane has a company that does that. Jamie does as well. Warlord Sports does as well. But the ripstop covers help because one of the requirements for a shot in new amp guard is the audible piece. Well, ripstop cover is almost always going to give you the audible piece. So you know, it's one, it's lighter. Two, it helps with that audible piece. So yeah, paying attention to equipment. I think we've established.
Did anybody mention height?
Height.
Yeah.
Yes,
good
height
one.
is very important.
Yeah, nice.
We talked about the length of a weapon. How tall or short someone is will give you some idea of their range. So yeah. All right, so we've assessed our person. Now we want to gather like a little bit more information on them, right? We see him, we're like, this dude's probably pretty serious about fighting. Now I want to figure out like what he's going to do, but I want to do that safely, right? So something you can do is just give him a little like rocker step, basketball term, or like a jab step is another term. Like, just hit him with something like that. You know, move a little bit close, but now where they can actually get a good shot on you, just give him just like that. You see, we're not moving anywhere, we're just giving them a jam. And if they go, well, you know right away, okay, here's a back pedal fighter, right? Like this is what I'm dealing with, is someone who's going to back up. And you should be relatively happy about that, because generally that's good for you. But yeah, give them that jam if they do that. Now, if you give them that jam and they stand there and look at you, you should be concerned. Because that shows you that someone knows what they're doing, right? They're like, this guy's not in range. He's not going to be able to do anything to me. He's just stepping to gather information. I'm not going to give him any information, right? I'm just going to, or I don't need to react to that. It's not something that matters to me, right? So there's that. You know, if they just tense up like that, you jam and they just go like that, you know, they're not probably going to move, that they're going to lock their guard in tight. That's also beneficial information because, you know, when you're talking about, I want to be able to formulate openers and I want to analyze the combat as it's fighting, as it's happening. You want to start the fight from like here. If I know Royce and I are about to fight, we're going to tap swords, maybe I'll tap and then I'll step back for a minute and then I'll like put him in the jam. And then I'll step this way to see how he's going to react to that, right? Like use your movement outside of where you're actually fighting to understand what they're going to do. If I'm trying to get an angle on him and I'm moving laterally and he doesn't really react to that, well that tells me I can get an angle on him and move laterally and I don't have to use much trickery to do that. I just have to move a little bit and he's not going to react. As I get closer, if he's always trying to maintain a certain distance, right? Come to me. If he's coming at me, right, and I'm doing this, well, you know they're going to maintain a certain distance, or they're trying to maintain a certain distance. That's probably a distance that's advantageous to them. So you need to understand that. How they walk away from you, right? Not just jumping back, but how, if I'm, come right back in here. If I'm moving at him, and he's just doing that, see how I did like the same pattern 3 times in a row? Well, that's good. Now I understand how he's going to move, and I can do something off of that, right? And he's kind of going straight back. And I kind of get a sense of this timing too, right? Like if I'm coming at him, and it's this, and it's this every time I take a step. Where do you think the points are that I can potentially execute something?
Lift his foot to take that back step.
Yeah, exactly. When he puts his weight on his front foot and he's going to step back, he has now made it so that he's stuck for that brief split second of time. All of his weight has come onto his front foot. Until he puts that back foot down, he's in trouble. At least he can't react except for to maybe move further back than he was going to, right? He can't come forward, right? It's impossible. It's literally impossible for him to come forward at that point. So how they're going to move out of you coming towards them is super important. How they're going to advance on you, right? If I come in and I'm going to fight Royce and tap, and I step in and I immediately start stepping back a little bit, I get that advance, and I start pressing, how he's going to back up. Backing up and advancing, how those things happen. Both of those things that I did were safe. Like there wasn't very easily shots for him to hit from there, and if he did decide to throw, I think I would be in a good position to defend, right? So right away, before we've struck a blow, as it were, right, we've gathered some information. We know how they're going to react if we press a little bit. You know, kind of from the jam, we understand what they're going to do, where their default defense is going to go, right? I kind of talked about it, but it's something. If I come at him and I make sure I'm just where he's going to go and I step in, if he leaves this like that, that tells me, okay, that's pretty much what his default defense is going to be. He's not going to shift. He's not going to try to slip my shots. I can make a plan based on that, based on how he decided to stand tight inside of the pocket, right? What else on that? You guys have ideas before I just keep going? It's like I said, I can go
How
far.
high his guard is.
How high his guard is again, yeah. Where his hand position is. Yeah, he didn't really move it when we stepped in, right? He left it right where it was. He's like, this is my guard, I'm committed to it. You know, it tells you one of two things. He's in trouble because I can hit past that guard, or he's comfortable with that guard and he has reactions off of that he has planned. And so now we need to kind of figure out what those reactions are. So what do you think we do next if we need to figure out what those reactions are, right? We saw that we rockered at him, he kind of stood in guard. How do we go about gathering some more information? Again, I'm not super comfortable throwing anything yet. In my mind, I'm still kind of gathering information. So what do you think?
You can step, you know, left and right. You can, if you're talking about not comfortable throwing at all, or throwing shots trying to hit him, you can throw safe shots at him where you're not intending to hit him, but he can't hit you in return.
Like a dump shot.
Yeah, exactly. We could throw some of that.
Feint.
There we go. We could feint, right? So he did pretty good. I jammed at him. He's like, I'm pretty committed to this, right? Now this to me tells me that he really kind of wants me to throw out that arm so he can probably hit the shoulder. That's my guess, like right away, is what he's going to want to do. Even without doing anything but this, I'm going to guess like if I throw out that arm, his answer is going to be here at my shoulder. So I would want to fill that out a little bit, right? So I would kind of act like I'm going to come in range, slip out of range a little bit, exactly like Vane said, and then pop that arm and then pull it right back, right? And see if he reacts to that. And if he does, then we know he wants to throw with his shoulder. If he doesn't, then we're like, okay, he's waiting for something else, or he's willing to wait until he thinks the moment is right to throw, but he's also going to let me throw at him, right? So I throw his arm, there was no reaction. Here, no reaction, right? Well, where would our plan go from there, do you think? I threw kind of at a hip, there wasn't a ton of reaction. Kind of just at a hand or an arm.
Shield side.
Shield side, that would be your plan.
Yeah, just step that way. See if he moves his guard, if he rotates or steps.
So here and then here, okay, and he did that. That's a very good thing to do. I'd be like, okay, I gotta be careful. I think his hip is way out there though. That's the thing I'm thinking of right now.
Okay, I can't see.
He holds his hand out, he's comfortable standing in the pocket, I think I'm gonna hit his hip. That's the plan we put together so far, just from what we've seen. But we saw that, one, so far what we've done to gather that information is this, right? We did this, and we threw this. Nothing too dangerous, right? You can even throw this kind of like that, it's even less dangerous, right? See if he's gonna do anything. And he kind of stands tall, but he doesn't want me to get good angles on him, so he slips, so that's good. We realized that. So, yeah. What else in that situation? We're still gathering information, right? We still haven't committed, we haven't risked anything really. You know, we've gathered, I think, a lot of valuable information, right?
Height fake?
Huh?
Height change fake?
Height change fight?
Fake. Just change your.
Oh, you want to see what he would, yeah, so again, like a rock, instead of just a rocker, you can go, right? Now, okay, see, now his answer is to sink, right? So if I act like I'm going to low stab him, and he sinks down, well, that's another piece of information that, again, we didn't risk anything for. And yeah, exactly right. You can hit board side shoulders. Okay. So that's all the stuff. Let me rewind all that. But that's all stuff we gathered all safely, right? You want to know the best thing you can actually do? If you really want to gather information on someone, watch them for like 15 minutes. Instead of just jumping on the ditch field and going, I'm super eager. I spent, got on a flight and spent 5 hours getting here. I'm going to jump in and go fight. If there's someone you know that you want to beat and you haven't seen them fight before, but I've heard about this dude, I want to beat him, watch him for like 15 minutes. And even if you've seen his videos online, like people still will change things that they're fighting and they might fight a different way. But generally they'll be patterned in a day, right? Like how they're going to fight that day. They're kind of got the stuff that they're comfortable with that day. And you watch them for like 15 or 20 minutes. The man teaching right over there, Peter the Quick, real quick, a little story on this. When I first met him, Spindrift brought him out to an SKBC a long time ago. And he was wrecking people. Like, I showed up and Spin's all in my face. Hey, D, look at this dude over here, man. I brought him out. Check this dude out. And I'm like, okay. I'm watching him. He's wrecking people. Man, that's pretty good. He's doing well. And Harry's sitting by me. I watched him for about 15 minutes. And I was like, okay. I said, hey Harry, watch this. And then I went on there and just destroyed him. But he had no reads on me, right? He's never seen me before. I've seen him, and I already formulated a plan just from watching him fight for 15, 20 minutes. Whereas if I would have went out there and just started swinging at him without a plan, the results wouldn't have been nearly as good. So I'm just telling you, that 15 minutes of just watching, even while you're stretching, getting your stuff on, getting your water situated, whatever, super, super valuable. You gather a lot of this information that we're gathering, it's still good and valuable, but you can get that ahead of time if you just watch. So spend some time watching, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I know you want to get out there and throw, but learn, understand, right? Go ahead.
No, I would say specifically, if you're seeing somebody and you're watching somebody, I know that some of you might be coming in here and say, well, I don't know what to look for. If you're seeing somebody fight, the first things I would always look at, if I'm looking at somebody to see what they're doing ahead of time, as I would say, what do they like to open with? Because chances are, whatever they open with and it's successful with somebody else, they're going to try that on you. So that's one thing you can automatically get down. What do they like to open with? And then you got to figure out how wide is their shot selection. If they are just, they love to hit the cross, love to hit the cross, they pretty much live over there, then that also gives you valuable information. Those are the kinds of things you should look for, how they open and how they pattern themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're watching people, understanding what their default opener is huge. People have 2 or 3 things they're really comfortable with. They don't vary from them a ton, and you can even watch. What the things you should really build off of that is what happens when people give them different looks, right? And that's the thing about watching them for 15 minutes. It's not like just, I watched them fight 3 times and now I got a good idea. You'll see them fight hopefully various people and various looks, and then you'll get some idea of exactly how they're gonna open and then what they do off of that, right? How they step off of a shot is important, if they step off of a shot. If I throw high cross and then I immediately throw high cross and I just keep throwing high cross, first of all, God help me. But second of all, like, that's very valuable information for you, right? Because you know, this person loves it, you know, but maybe they're pretty successful with it, but I think I can take advantage of that. And I really want them to do that. So, when I just get into the touch of range, let them throw high cross, and then counter, right? If I get him, just throw high cross at me, and I throw back at him, but off, and I get my board over here, right? Classic Arthon, right? Easy. So things like that when you're formulating a plan, right? And your plans, when we get to that, let's get to that a little bit later. So yeah, when you're watching them, watch for their default openers, watch where they're going to go, and start thinking about what you're going to do. The most important thing, I think, in that space, and then we probably need to start drilling here a little bit, get y'all moving. It's cold, at least to me. But you have to understand what your toolkit is while you're evaluating their toolkit, right? If you're like, oh, you know, I could spin shot that guy, except for I don't know how to spin shot, well, that's not going to be helpful, right? You gotta use the tools you have, and understand the tools you have. If sword side hip's not a great shot for you, then sword side hip's not the answer that you're looking for, right? You should work on it, but if it's not the answer for the time, it's not the answer, then, you know, maybe a cross is the answer, maybe a flat, whatever. Just understand you have to use the tools that you have. So when you're evaluating someone and you want to make a plan that plays to your strengths and limits their strengths, right? If he was high cross, if he was very high cross centric, I would probably move right a lot, right? So come over here a little bit. If he's going to throw high cross on me and I'm moving right, I'm already putting my defense where he wants to throw. Over and over again, he can throw high cross all day, and I can wait until I'm ready to throw back at him because I'm moving my targets all the time, right? Sword side hip's the same way. If he wants to throw a sword side hip on me over and over again, and I'm moving, right? My shield's already there. I don't have to worry about this, right? I'm already just moving my shield, taking that angle away. And if he really commits to it, right, he's going to die. So understand that and play into your strengths, all right? What else? Anything else?
The only thing I was saying is that, I was going to say is if you notice in somebody, what James was talking about, you know, play to your strengths, don't play to something that you can't do. For example, if you're seeing somebody fight and you see them actually losing to somebody because somebody is able to pull off that spin or is able to get into this tummy or able to get into the shoulder, you might say, man, I wish I could throw that spin because that spin's really been working. Don't tell yourself, well, what I got to do is throw the spin. Because it's something you're not comfortable with just because it worked for somebody else, which is somebody else's strength, is not going to be something that you're going to pull off. Instead, what you should be taking away from that is, that's where he has an opening. That's where he has a weakness, that's a place that I should hit, and I need to think of what I'm good at that I can land in that area.
Same kind of thing. And when you're making your initial plans too, no one that's a programmer starts your first project as making Skyrim. So you have to start very small. Work on the observational skills. See what comes back when they'll leave it to you. Don't focus too much and too hard about what you're doing yourself. But also said, like your toolbox, if you know you can't throw a shot, workshop that later. Get a friend, go spar, work on that, try to dip into that hip, whatever it takes. But you're going to be building files on people, and you want to make sure that your stuff is correct, and then start observing the best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you want to build off of this information is, like you said, you're not running Skyrim, but you want like a three-step plan at the most. But I generally recommend, if you haven't planned before, you don't want to go into like this elaborate 5-step plan about, you know, first I'm going to like throw this stab fake and then I'm going to feint high, twitch back low, feint high one more time and then throw a spin. Like, it's probably not going to work. You're probably going to lose track somewhere in step 2 and 3, right? I mean, what you really want is, I'm going to step right a couple times on his board side. I'm going to feint real hard board side. I'm going to come back sword side hip, right? Boom, 2-step plan. And remember, you're never done until you're back to defensive posture. So it can't be, I'm going to come here and I'm going to throw sword side hip and that's done. It's, I'm going to throw here sword side hip, back to full guard, right? And then I'll reassess the situation. But when you go in, like have 2, 3-step plan, and that's it. And execute on that. So at this point, go ahead.
Well, if I can't throw close, so the spin's a good example. If I can't throw the spin or whatever, I can still fake it.
Yeah.
Like if I know that somebody just ate somebody in that quadrant with that shot, I don't need to throw it. I just need to be able to fake it.
Yeah, and as long as they don't know that you can't throw it, then
It'll work once.
To piggyback on the planning thing, the longer and more complex your plan is, the harder it is to go back and review what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
So if you're 7 chains in, you can't remember what step 3 was, well, step 4 through 7 were a complete waste. So work on those small 2 and 3-step plans, and as soon as you've done, back up and evaluate. Did you execute according to your plan? How did they react to your plan, and what are you going to do next time to change it up?
yeah, and then the last important thing to remember before we start doing evaluation of people and formulating plans is when you're thinking about yourself and what worked and what didn't work, the worst thing you can do is go, oh, I just have to be faster. Like, this shot always works for me, I just wasn't fast enough, right? And you try it over and over and over again. I just need to be fast enough. I'm just not fast enough today. What's the definition of insanity? Anyone know?
Doing the same thing over and over again.
Expecting different
Over
results.
again, right?
Yeah.
It's, I had a discussion, I don't know if you know Ash, but we have discussions sometimes where it's like, whenever a game ends, you reset, and nobody died on the other side of the ditch, and you say, try harder. We don't like that, right? Because that insinuates like, just do the same thing harder, is just try different.
Yeah.
Anything else.
Yeah. Carlos here used to have a struggle with that against me all the time, which is probably why he's laughing, because he would be like, I can get that shot on you. I'm like, it's really not a good shot to throw on me. Like, I just got to be fast. No, that's not it. There's better shots, right? There's better choices to make. And that's what you got to do. You got to be able to evaluate and go, oh, I just need to do something different like this. This isn't going to work, or even if it is going to work, it's not going to work that often. So let's figure out something else. Let's take a better approach, right?
From a learning perspective, you can call that negative learning. Negative learning is when you learn something that stops you from being able to do something new or prohibits you from learning something that you should, and nothing is worse for that than success, believe it or not. Because this is a story that James told way back when, and it just happens to be a player here. There was an SKBC a while back in New Mexico, and I felt that was one of my strongest SKBCs. I was going out there and I was laying waste, and I was feeling really good about myself, and I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm the boss here. And then I went out to go fight PTQ, and he was just eating my lunch. I mean, I was getting no success, and then so I was just getting into my head. Man, I've got to deliver my shots better. I got to be quicker. It's been working all freaking day, all weekend. Why is it not working right now? And James was there, and he just walked up, and he's like, "Hey, Carlos, you know what you should do?" And I'm like, "What?" He says, "Well, he's a hand matcher. He's always putting this arm out," and he told me how to change my strategy. And then just by telling me that, I got my win ratio up to about 50-50. And that was just after a couple of minutes of talk. And that was because I changed what I was doing. So I can tell you, you might convince yourself that all you need to do is be better, but you're just fooling yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely be willing to self-evaluate all the time. Just because that's your strength against most people, there are people that are accustomed to that, and they'll have a much better time defending it. Like throwing sword side hip on wheel people, especially the ones that fight Isaac and Eric all the time, might be a little difficult. It doesn't mean you can't throw it. You just need to be aware that it's something that they defend against all the time. Throwing 5-1-2s or backspins at people out of Austin, we might be used to seeing those a lot. So you got to be careful about it and understand that those are things that we see a lot. And you got to be careful. So a couple volunteers. What we're going to do is have people fight. We're going to kind of watch them. First of all, realize I don't really care who wins or loses. So don't worry about going super hard in the paint. Worry about everyone learning. You can fight for sure. But we're trying to get a pattern, understand what people are going to do, and do some evaluation, right? So don't go crazy. The Fry, who else?
I'll fight.
All right, Andrew. 3 fights.
see.
I don't think I would have landed that if you hadn't gone down on that leg.
One more. All right, what do we see? Stay out there.
Really low drops and stabs.
Yeah, those guys fight really low.
Turning like their whole body over to stab up under the shield.
Yeah, they like to level change, for sure. What else?
First two fights, he threw lower onside quadrant, I think, every time he hit. And you were fighting with sword foot forward. In this third fight, you swapped it, and I think you did much better at blocking that quadrant. And you had to go up top.
What did you guys see?
We're both kind of sword foot forward and kind of almost trying to gauge the distance for kind of the explosion in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, I was just trying to poke for openings, and on the first two, definitely realized his guard changes were quicker than I anticipated, and got my cookies eaten for it.
You guys didn't really have a lot of shot variety. You guys were pretty much just throwing for like sword side. I didn't see anything like over the top or like butt wrap, anything like that.
There wasn't a lot of things.
There wasn't a lot of fakes. Yeah, so these guys pretty much tell their story, and that they're going to just throw their shots. So far, we've only seen 3 fights, but there wasn't a lot of fakes, and there was a lot of sword side attacking. There wasn't a lot of board side attacking. So, you know, that's very useful information to formulate a plan, for sure. We won't plan yet, that comes later. Next two. What did we see?
What was your name?
Me?
Yeah.
Crown guard.
Crown guard?
Derek.
I noticed right away that you started the first fight with a little rocker step like he was talking about, so you're a good quick learner, but you're not super aggressive. Like, he was pretty much owning all the fights, just because he was initiating everything.
His primary hand, or his primary attack is pretty quick, but it's actually his secondary that seems to be the deciding factor. I saw that, and especially the first 2 exchanges. So everything was kind of you're getting mixed up with the primary, and then he's following it up, and that's usually what's getting his kill shot. And I think that was a little bit of what you were falling for, was you were trying to adjust yourself to the first, and he was kind of eating you up with that second. It's that tick-tock, you know, right in your, or butter in your bread.
A lot of combos. You do a lot of combos. It's good. I mean, 3 fights, but yeah. What else?
You have really good coverage with the shield, but you've got a weakness where you keep that right up under your nose. That'd be really, really easy to exploit. A lot of people like to bash that right into your face to get you to throw it off and hit you somewhere else.
I really want to bash you.
I was
no fighter. It was like.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing over here on this end. You kept it right under your shield, whereas you said like dagger belly or something where shield kicking is legal, just right up into your jaw, you bite your teeth. Also noticed shield positioning, yours was tighter to your body, but you had it way over here blocking this, which could have cut off some of your attack shots. So you were moving your whole body. When you threw that first shot, like he was talking about, it was really
Yeah.
fast, and then you'd leave it out here, wait for him to do something, and then follow it up. Him over here, he had his shield a bit out away from his body. Looked like he was definitely looking for, like the one on the third fight, when he got that down sword stab. It definitely looked like he was kind of hoping this being out here away from his body would lend that in at some point.
So another thing, and I think this kind of just goes into this, is we were in the class before, and this goes into the computing thing, and I saw you do that shot earlier today, and I knew you were going to do it. Like, it builds right into that.
Yeah.
Like, I knew you were, like, I was like, yeah, I saw you do that, and then I was like, I bet he's probably going to try to throw that shot again. So that goes a little bit into the computing.
Absolutely.
It's like, you know, picking that up and, you know, using it to gauge and process who you're fighting.
Especially if he does something leading into it. Like
Yeah.
if you noticed, I didn't see the class earlier, but if you noticed, you know, when he's going to throw that shot, he does this and this.
Exactly.
Now you have a read on him, and when he goes to set that up later on in the ditch, you can punish him for it 100% of the time.
They both, when they first stepped in, were gauging each other and keeping their shields close, so they were having high defense. Neither of them were really manipulating each other's equipment whatsoever. So they were just holding it there and not like pushing any kind of shield work or putting any kind of feint or baits or anything. And as you came in, you were like almost, it seemed like to me you were trying to reach a little bit for certain shots because you were uncomfortable with the idea of how to breach his defense while he was able to look for the opportunities on you more easily.
Yeah, so from my perspective, you moved your board a lot. Shouldn't move your board a lot. I mean, that's the whole reason he got you with that. He got you with a feint down into an over. Yeah, because your shield just flew down, like flew down.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about that. You know, like again, slide to the right. If you're worried about that hip, move to the right, or secondarily, if you want, you can block with your sword. But throwing your board down is an easy way to get killed. Now, and we'll talk about this later, but if you're out of range, he does that. You act like you're going to throw your board down, and then the next time he goes to throw that and you don't, that's a different story. But we'll get to that.
Something else too, it looked like he was really pushing the aggression on the fight and keeping you on the defense. And you looked like you were really trying to wait for your moment to have something happen, whereas he was trying to create a moment. And that's what gave him a better margin of success against you.
I saw it on you, anyway. I didn't see you closing a whole lot. I thought you were waiting for that one big shot that was about to end. You were just waiting for that moment. You did a fairly good job of range control. So far as I could see that you lived in that yellow area. You're not a closer. You wanted to sit there and pick him from range, and you were getting those shots in, and you were making it. He didn't aggress until the very last bout.
When you wanted the big shield sword stab. So, yeah. All right, thanks. Next two.
I'll go.
Are we going to go? I'm getting cold. I'm so busy. Cool. Here's your mom. She's coming back. You got that. You got that.
All right, what do we see?
We're gonna give us, we should stay up here for a minute.
Yeah, what do we see? What do we see?
In that first fight, it looked like, I don't know, maybe you guys read faster than I do, but it looked like you guys didn't really do any reading. You kind of went in, you threw your fake, and then you attacked. You didn't kind of wait for any information. That's what it seemed like.
I didn't actually think he was trying to kill him when you first swung. I thought your swing was a safe swing to see what he was going to do, and that wasn't your own.
He stepped in when I was.
That's what I was.
He caught me flat-footed, basically.
And that's what I would point out is like he uses a lot of his like hand speed to open up his opponents, with those primary shots. Whereas Kerry, he kind of swings from the yellow and will close in from there. And I think that's what really was a big deciding factor in the primary setup was you threw that gauging, kind of shot, and Kerry just called it from the yellow. And then it was you guys gauged each other from that first match, and I think that was a big thing. Instead of gauging it right at the front, and checking here and there, you guys gauged from the first exchange and then went from there.
What tendencies did we see?
I'd say both guys were definitely willing to scrap. Like, neither of them seemed really timid, so I don't know if it's someone I would necessarily really close on real fast and engage them. I might kind of play it safe and figure out what I wanted to do.
What else?
KLT liked to live down here.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, very patterned down there. He liked to throw feints down there if he wasn't going to do anything. It was almost like he wouldn't do anything without going under his shield first, which is not good. I'm not saying you can't ever do that. In fact, it's a fine feint, especially since you have a punch. But if everything stems from that as an open, and granted, we saw you 3 times, right? So I'm keeping that in mind. But 3 times, in 3 times, your sword probably went under your shield like that about 10 times. So that tells me that there's a lot of that going on. So that's something you can figure out how to make a plan and exploit, right? If someone's going to always do that, then there are ways to exploit that, right? Because they're stuck there for a second.
I noticed something on myself when he was doing that, and I saw them coming over here a lot. Normally I fight with hand right up here on the shoulder, keep a nice open sword arm, but I saw all these coming, and I noticed at the end there, right after the third one, I was like, my shield drifted down to here.
Yeah.
It definitely moved it over a lot.
Yeah, which I'm sure is why he does that. So,
A lot of times what I try to do is invite the rush kind of thing. I have a small board, they see easy pickings. I try to get the board to come over here with the rush. Board goes here, this goes over shoulder, and I finish with a crossfire hit.
Yeah.
That's the goal, ideally. But the first one we saw that he just jumped on me and I was flat-footed completely and I paid for it,
Yeah. We just fought not that long ago.
Yeah.
At that tournament, so we kind of already gauged each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is why we maybe jumped into it quicker than the other
I
fights.
kind of wondered about that.
Yeah. So, variety for you is important. So what's going on is you have something that works for you, and I bet it works for you pretty often, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is a smart person, and I guess I should have said this in the class. I don't really want to teach you how to outthink and outschool newbies. You don't need my help doing that. I want to teach you how to game plan and outthink and out-chess match warlords. That's who you want to do it on anyway, right? Or at least people that are up and coming. Anyone can do it on a new person. It's not that hard. So, when we start talking about don't do something as patterned as that, it's because they're going to figure out how to punish you for it. And, I guess just a little preview of the stuff that I would do. I'd be I would buy into your feint a little bit and punish you for throwing it on me later. I'd be oh yeah. We fight and you go on your board and I go, oh fine, I'll fight. And I think about the things, and I go like this, then I step in. Yeah, well exactly what you want to do to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what you want to do, you want to go high. Well, I'm not stupid. But now I've made you less than optimal, right? Because I used exactly what you wanted to do against you. So you want to have a lot more variety, a lot more places that you can go. So it's something to be aware of. All right, next 2, and then we're going to kind of switch a little bit. We won't have a chance to get to everyone for this part, but because I want us to get to everyone for the next part. It's more fun for everyone, and I think it's really important too. So, not that this part's not important.
Have a leg.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe one more? Everyone has to go. For those who are trying to to you guys, although it's concrete, so you're absolutely welcome to play Lego.
Yeah.
Like, just establish it with your opponent ahead of time. Because some people, such as my friend here, really likes to throw the leg shot. So I think that's the first thing we saw. I'll just steal that one from you because it's too obvious. What else did we see?
They were faking a lot and throwing a lot of just like they were throwing a shot but at nothing. Like it wasn't a dump shot. It wasn't into the opponent. It wasn't just a hand or a pump fake or anything like that. It was literally like a
Smoke.
A space saver, yeah, like a smoke screen. Like it's in the space between you and me, but it's not threatening.
Yes.
A lot of that, they did a lot of leaning, a lot of up and down, changing of elevation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What was your name?
Loki.
Loki. Do you play Bill Dag?
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as before the first fight even started, I looked at you from the Winnegoss to the PD Shield. I was expecting a lot of high crosses and like TikToking and stuff. And that only really happened in the first fight for the most part. You had a little more variety than that. But that was initially what I was thinking as soon as you walked up.
I do have a problem with that too anyway.
I felt like my initial thought right off the bat, like even at the first, I felt like he was trying really aggressively to like control the pace. Because you would like step in and I felt like you were almost too close to him. Like you'd step in, you'd try to do something, you'd try to figure something out. And all three fights, I felt like you were trying to do that, and like he was just picking apart. Like he would pick his moment.
Yep.
Rather than like you aggressing something on him.
Which might account for the leg
You're carrying a
shots.
heater sheet, which makes that shield side shoulder a pain. And I noticed when you went down in the third fight, you threw twice to that shoulder, and you got absolutely nothing. You'd have gotten it if it was around, but it's a heater, so no go.
Or even just any sort of just in reaction to anything, just in the smallest little bit.
Okay.
Prior to that too, you really put no pressure on that board side. So
Yeah.
it limited your offense to only his sword side.
Really
so-
no idea how to find one of those things.
Well, you didn't try to hop right, you didn't do a lot of stuff, so
Yeah.
really it just kind of funneled you into his game plan.
There's a tendency, especially on this side, other than just throwing at the leg, what else did we see?
A lot of sword side jumps.
A lot of sword side jumps, but he level changed a lot, and we talked about that, but what he did to level change was this, right? He bent at his knees, very heavy on his knees, which limits your movement for that period of time. So that's something to be aware of. If someone's gonna level change like that, it's something we can punish. So what we're doing here is we're gathering information, right? So we know on him, if he's gonna do those level changes, do you think it's possible that we could move somewhere that would invite him to do the level change? Meanwhile, our plan being that we're gonna capitalize on that in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, if you know he's gonna do a step and then drop into this level change and throw at this lead leg, right? Do you think possibly there's an easy way we could punish that?
Either you could leave your leg out and bait it, or you could feign a low shot on him to see if he'll level change down and throw high.
Right. Keep in mind, just think about ways we can punish that for later, right? But you did a lot of that. Again, we want to be careful with our tendencies, right? Even things like, I do this 3 times and then like I get ready to fight, you know, or I'm constantly doing this with my sword, even inside a range, or I'm constantly doing this with my sword, inside a range. Those are all things that are very punishable. I haven't seen anyone do anything quite that bad this time around, but definitely be aware of things like that, because you can get punished for those. Next 2. Keep moving. We have a big task.
Yeah, go ahead. Farley, I think my shield's too small for you. You just pick a motherfucker at a time on that shield, dude.
Don't be shy to step up, you're taking this class for a reason. You know, no one's gonna look at you and make fun of your win-loss record, you're trying to improve, so don't mess this up.
Let's go with that is.
Yeah. You might get
That
out
one,
of
I
this.
put my glove in there.
You
Glove,
get
you
to
know,
go first.
glove in there, and then I slap the glove.
You need this to hang off your strap.
Dude, you got any straps with you? Yeah.
I didn't even need straps.
I almost thought you were gonna say that. This is heavy. Kids. When I was
All right, what do we see?
Bane, that first fight, the first thing he did was that pump, and he immediately like jumped back.
Yeah, so what's the ideal thing you think to do when someone throws a step at you that you don't really have to react to?
Just do nothing.
Yeah, actually smiling at them is pretty good.
You know.
Yeah, that's certainly what I do, just smile at them. It's pretty funny. But yeah, don't do anything. Smiling at them is like, oh crap. That's generally what they'll think, uh-oh. So let's talk about that for a second because there's other things, right? What this gentleman did, a lot of this, if you just smile at them, perfect, right? You know, people that do like this kind of stuff, like kind of throw out your sword hand a little bit, you know, don't let them just move in on you where they get in good range, but if they're doing it from a bad range, then, you know, kind of smile at them. Don't change anything. Let them know, right? This, I'm not worried about that, you're not close enough. Smile at them, right? Don't move until you have to. Or feed them false information, right? That's the other piece of it. If you can say, oh yeah, I'm very afraid of that, then again, you can punish people because people are sometimes too smart for their own good and you just outsmart them because you go, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do that for my shield. The next time when you're in range, and then when they're in range, hold your shield tight, twitch it a little bit, like just like that, right? They go like this, you go, and then they'll go to throw because they don't think. They just think, oh, that's what happened last time, so it's certainly what's going to happen this time, and then you take advantage of it. So just remember, be very cognizant of what you do at all times. Self-awareness is super important in this. You know, you have to know yourself before you can really even worry about know your enemy, so understand and be very cognizant. Don't give away information, basically, for that. What else did we see?
Every time you swing, you drop your shield way down.
Yeah, that's true.
I also noticed like on your sword side arm, instead of being, like you're kind of A-framing the shield, but you weren't really bringing your sword out into the A to block like out here. You had your sword arm like at a 90-degree angle, which made like a lot extra distance whenever you had to push a shot that broadcasted it to him where that shot was going because your arm's leaving from here and going out to one of those directions that you're trying to throw. And I noticed that Bane was leaving his shield kind of down like he was dropping it, like maybe trying to fake bait for that shoulder, or if you're just kind of thinking you just were dropping your shield down low there a little bit.
Something I noticed, what's your name?
Thaddeus.
Thaddeus. You seem to have a lot of trouble in general just covering the distance. You didn't take a lot of small steps. You took big explosive steps and you were throwing your equipment out in front of you, you were dropping your shield in order to try to cover distance. So it's just something to keep in mind.
I actually noticed a little bit of the opposite. While he was in the yellow range, he was taking tons of little steps, but then to get into the green range, he was taking the large explosive steps. And I believe like you were taking the little steps to kind of play with Bane's perception of the ranges, but then when you were in range, Bane would take the one big step and close and take a shot.
In most of the exchanges, Bane usually leads with his board, like he'll actually push it out a little bit. And that can really cut off a lot of angles for you, but that also opens up angles for him. So like when he would come forward, he would kind of push his board out. Even when he was doing like the reverse wraps and stuff, he would kind of push it out. And those create angles here, but when he does that, it also cuts out other stuff. Just things to kind of look at when he's, you know, kind of trying to get in and grind on you.
All right, who hasn't gone? Skeleton?
That's real sad.
He hasn't got any. Here you go.
Yeah, let's get y'all done and we can do this next part. We won't get to everyone for the next part, but we'll get to a lot. It's important that everyone sees that.
I just saw that little spat. Take it. Sounds like what is left?
Kira? Who else hasn't gone?
This guy over here is gearing up.
All right. I guess y'all got to see Royce when he done for me a little bit.
We're seeing all of them right now.
I would love to do like on deck, that would be great.
Thank you. You got to pay for that.
I'm sorry.
No, it took me a second because it was mostly shield.
Good call.
All right, what did we see?
Hands like extending way out here beyond the shield. I think, not on all fights, but I saw both fighters at least one point in one of the first two fights where they stick your arm out for a shot and then had like a really long delay before you could get your arm safely like back around your shield. I saw a broadcast from each of you where you were leaning over, definitely looking for that, his shield side, just like leaning way over into it. Because you knew you had to get around the shield, but I just feel like you were broadcasting that to him too. And then you have one of these, it got her, but you tilted your sword back here and then threw over the top. And I feel like there was not a whole lot, like you couldn't really go for here or that wrap. You pretty much had to shoot over the top on that shot.
You've got a thing for that shot, you use it every single time.
Yeah, actually, that was something I was gonna point out.
You open with it twice, you won with it, you hit with it twice at least, maybe three. You set it up different, but it was that same shot, exactly.
What do you do with this when you're actually gonna throw it? Like, is it that only a fake, or do you actually do something with that?
Oh, with this?
Yeah.
Button wrap maybe, not often.
So, just a little bonus for you, since you're here, you're in my class. Just, like that hand, right?
Oh, sure.
Like that hand, yeah. And the reason why is because you want this setup, and it's a beautiful one. I use this at the dojo a lot. Just pop here, throw your hand down like that. As soon as they drop it, exactly like you do, then you can go high.
Sure. The under, the wrist as if
Yeah.
you're trying to go for that.
Yeah.
I do that every night, and not as
Yeah.
often as I should.
Yeah, so that setup is real solid for that. Because if you never do anything with that, no one's ever gonna blink that fake, or they shouldn't. They should look at you like, that's stupid, you never do anything with that, I'm not gonna worry about it.
Yeah.
And because this is something I didn't talk about earlier, but you spend probably 80% of your amp guard career fighting the same people all the time, right?
So true.
So, if you're doing that, the tendencies and patterns and habits of smart people, I fight somewhere between 6 and 7 sword nights in any given night, like all the time. So, you know, this is important for me especially, but it's important for anyone. Like, you can't just throw the same kind of information. I'm constantly changing my game, constantly evolving, changing the stuff I do. One week of fighting me will be completely different than the next week. Generally speaking, I try to throw different stuff out. I'll lead differently. I'll change stances. You know, I'll change opener, all kinds of stuff because I have to. Otherwise, I'll get punished for it. And you know, you have to go to the back of the line if you lose in Austin. You only want to stay in the front. But yeah. So if you're gonna throw feints like that, it'll work. It worked. But you know, you fight it for 2 or 3 weeks and you're doing that all the time, you never do anything with it, it ain't gonna work anymore. So I'm like, I don't know, that's stupid, I don't need to worry about that. So, you know, actually make your threats meaningful. You know, you can't just always threaten and never do anything. Pop. Even if it never hits them, at least they know, at least have to be aware of it, it's something he throws, right? Cool.
Something I noticed, she tended to have her sword in almost continuous loop. It paused from time to time, but it was a pretty steady loop, like something you might be able to time.
Yep. What else?
I felt like I think in one of the first fights, you just opened, like, trying to hook that shoulder. And I think you recognized right off the bat that, like, she kept her equipment kind of here, but she was, like, I think she was too, like, turned forward to, like, so this shoulder looked juicy. But you didn't hit that shot right off the bat. And I think, like, because you missed that, like, I wanted you to throw for that shoulder way more. Because you ended up, I think in that second fight, you threw sword side a lot more, and I was like, man, you need to come back up here. But like, I don't know, I would have tried to stay up there a little bit more, because like, I think you recognized that, like right off the bat, but that initial like, maybe I need to, that initial miss was like,
I think the 2 hits I got were on that shoulder.
yeah, right, yeah.
On the inverse of that, she has a tendency to arm hunt quite a lot, just from watching these fights and from fighting you last night on the ditch. So if you throw for that, you really got to cover your arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up with Fezzik, like the computing thing altogether. I was fighting him last night, first time I've ever fought him, you know, met him, whatever, but like, I mean, that's something that immediately like picked up in my mind. I was like, okay, I'm going to probably see some of the stuff that he was throwing last night, so.
Yeah.
And yeah, it happened, so, but at the same time, I was still able to pick up other tells and things like that went along with that after, kind of engaging and watching it again.
You were pretty unwilling to open. That's very dangerous. A lot of people don't want to believe this, but as you move up in levels, right, and you start fighting the higher level fighters, if you're never willing to open, that's a horrible tell for someone, because they know that they can safely throw stuff at you and you're only going to try to counterpunch them, right? So you can't only be a counterpunch fighter. You have to be willing to have some opening shots and do things out of the cut. It doesn't mean you have to be a press fighter all the time, but it does mean that at times you have to vary your offense, right? Switch gears on them and be able to open. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're always opening and pressing, that's also bad, right? Because they know you're going to do that and they can formulate a plan based on that. So you kind of have to be able to switch back and forth and be very fluid in your game. All right, next piece. I need a volunteer, single volunteer, someone who's fought there. Use that out.
Hasn't fought.
You already fought, yeah?
Already fought, yeah.
Okay.
You want somebody who hasn't fought?
No, he fought. You can go hang out. You can go hang out and watch those guys in two-sword for a while if you want.
Okay.
All right? All right, what we're going to do is we're going to make a plan for who wants to fight him. It can be anybody out there.
How about you?
You want to fight him?
I'm fine.
Okay, so we're going to make a plan for him to fight.
Remember things?
So, what should he do, based on what we've seen? We've only seen 3 fights, unfortunately we don't have a ton of time. Normally I like to do 5 or 6 fights, but we saw 3, so. What should he do? Don't say it too loud.
So my thought process on it is you need to try to fake shots that you used in the last 3 exchanges with your opponent, especially if he critiqued them. So what are the ones that are going to stick in his
So the one that worked and what you obviously like doing and looking for is stabbing him with that. Fake with that. And then hit him in the shoulder.
Well, sorry, I've got a.
Fucking cheater.
I've got to sub out, so if somebody else wants to take my spot, I've got to go handle an issue. I may not make it back in time to finish the class.
Okay.
All right, everybody, thank you guys very much.
No, yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for volunteering. All right,
You beat him.
You're the man over there now, so we're planning against you now.
Scared him from coming out.
The plan was too good.
Okay, so Ryan's gonna fight him. What should we do against my friend here?
You should bait this side open so he goes to stab you with that.
So instead, you need to plan out your approach based off the fact that he knows that the advice we gave him was to pretty much, plan to fake, what he knows. So you need to play for that.
When he fought, he seemed really, he didn't want to engage. He was waiting for opening shots this side. This side, he wasn't throwing at all. He got dumped on that side a lot. He never went through, and the only time he did throw was with the yelling and the stab with the board side.
Expect some different stuff, but also know that it's probably going to be in that same realm.
I think
Sport a lot as well.
the vibe that I got when I was fighting him, I don't think he's going to want you to pressure him. So I would try to force him to open on you, and I think you'll be able to, because I don't think he's going to be able to, once he does his little 2-3 step plan, I don't think he's going to be able to transition into something safe after that. So if you could just make him come to you, I don't
Make him
think
come to you and then
he's
you
not
win.
going to know it.
The plan has to go all the way through, how am I gonna do it?
Oh.
Sword side hip. Sword side hip, okay. So you make him come to you and then you sword side hip. So, I'm gonna make some, right? Tap swords. I'm gonna step into him for a second and then I'm gonna slide back, right? Suddenly I'm right, so you make him come to you, right? And then step back, step back, step back. As soon as you see that come forward heavy, then juke that way a minute, down to sword side hip. Boom, boom, boom. Or if you throw like this. That's better. Okay.
When you throw your
money, if you put your handle into the crease of where his downstick comes into his board, he'll literally just right into your hand and it'll stiff his entire head. If you just throw like that, you'll
It's not
cross block it.
impossible that he completely avoids that, since that's what we was talking about
Yeah,
before
it's
he walked
possible.
off. You might wanna,
I'd say play against the fact that we already gave him the knowledge.
if it's not that stab, what he's waiting on is for you to open up so he feels comfortable, okay, I'm safe, I can hit him, so you might wanna throw something like, where you're not necessarily trying to hit him, but he needs to feel like you're trying to hit him, but you need to return slowly.
And that's where the mental chess game plays in too, because like then you get into the situation of, well, I just went over there and they know what I told them, so you know what I'm gonna do instead? I'm gonna fucking throw the shit that I was told not to throw.
Yeah,
But I know that he knows that I know.
I would throw some shots at his hand like
And
you're
then
trying
your
to
brain
hit him, and
blows.
slowly come back to where he feels comfortable throwing, and then expect that, take his arm as he comes out, and then block with your shield.
Yeah.
Like a modified dark side.
Yeah, so throw it into his hand, and then as he's coming back out, snipe his arm, right?
Yeah.
So
Someone's brain's
you have a
gonna
primary
blow.
plan, right, to go for sword side hip, and your secondary is to throw his arm.
Hey, Fred,
Right, you'll have 3 fights. We'll see what he does.
Like, there's no vein.
All right, buddy.
This is a pretty cool activity.
It's cold, bro. I'm telling you. It'll thaw out.
Pretty good for a while there.
This is entrance music.
I'd like to get down there.
Good.
Roll.
You're a hardcore motherfucker.
I can't fight on my knees very long, I cramp up.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys do leg on deck?
I mean, if he's cool with leg on death, I'll do leg on death.
There we go.
Alright.
I don't care who's cool with it, I'm not getting on my knees.
See, I'm wearing knee pads, I don't care.
Those knee pads aren't good enough to be fighting on. One more, right? Okay.
Good.
Good stuff. Wasn't really the plan, but that worked fine.
No. I'm not very good at the money, actually, so.
All right, so
Same area.
the plan, I think, worked.
The first fight it worked better than I kind of abandoned it.
Yeah, well, actually, when you threw it, the hand went through it, the hand through it, the hand, then went topside.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly what we were looking for, like what we asked for, but it
He
was still,
wasn't following me
yeah,
out.
but it was still perfect though, right? Throw
Right.
the hand, throw the hand, throw the hand. He's not gonna do anything. Boom, I can go topside. I think it was good. The read on you was you weren't gonna do much, to react, and so he just bait, bah, and
Yeah.
took it at the end, right? So the takeaway for you is you're a little predictable in the fact that you want to counter all the time, and you're very timid about opening. You need to open something. I mean, that's really the answer to that. Like, you need to be a mad opener. If you like to jab people with that thing, then jab them with it out of the fucking cut, dude. Just go, bah! And let them know, hey, I'm in this fight. We're here to fight, right? Even if it's just like, you kind of got to establish a presence on the field. And if the presence you're establishing is, Isaac likes to call it like predator and prey. If the presence you're establishing, Anatole, if the presence you're establishing is kind of, I'm going to get something, you're a prey, right? You want that predator. So if you come out and you just blam, that's like, hey, I'm here, we're going to throw down, right? It's not going to be like I'm running from you all day until you get to hit me with something. So that was the read on you. Oh, good job.
I did specifically change my stance from sword foot forward to board foot forward because I just want to get caught by that stab.
Yeah. All right, who else?
Are we doing this already?
Yeah, we got to keep going.
I'll be the runaway.
You're the runaway? Okay, cool. Go to the bathroom.
That's intelligent.
All right, so we're fighting the Royce. Who wants to fight him?
I'll fight.
You're fighting, okay, perfect. Xander is fighting.
We get a read on him?
Whatever we do, it's the end or getting hit.
We all know. You're a troll dude.
All right, so, what would you guys suggest, and then I'll throw some suggestions, because we didn't really get to see him fight 3. What would you guys suggest?
Is he gonna use floor team? Because I can tell you goalposts, so he's probably pretty vulnerable to a stab.
He has a wheel a lot, so he's probably pretty protective of his sword side hip.
He does fight Isaac and Eric all the time, so yeah, he at least is aware of that. How can we capitalize on that, do you think?
Faking.
Yeah, you use it for a fake.
All right.
You do like, say fake the sword side hip, you could loop it over, throw over top.
All right, how would you fake sword side hip? I just need to know how you would fake it. Just throw. Okay, that's good.
Fake.
And then when you do the
sidestep.
All right, and then this
There's all
happens.
this too.
Okay.
Get something up here.
Yeah, but yeah, too flat. So your setup's good. Fake sword side hip there. Your hand gets down here. And step. You fight right foot forward.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can do right foot forward. You're gonna have to slide your back foot up right here. And then when the shield comes down. So as you throw your fake, like slide your foot up. Right. Watch my back foot. As you throw your fake, slide your foot up. Right. And then when your shield goes down, as your shield goes down, step over the top. Right. Easy. So okay. I think that's a good plan A. What else do we need?
So if that plan A works, then you can run that as like plan A.10. You know, so basically trying to open up with that again, but knowing that it's probably going to fail.
Yeah.
And then meeting that into something else, which would be a board side hip wrap, most likely.
I would go high, low, high. Honestly, like
high, low, high.
If we're talking about really gaming someone now,
Yeah.
you're gonna do that same step, right here. Huh. Right. So now he's done this, and he's like, oh crap, this has happened before. Up. Right back down to what we originally were targeting for. Right. High, low, high. Low, high, low. Low, high, low. Pop. Right back down to sword side. Right. So that can be your B plan, especially if your A plan works. You can throw it as a B plan. Right. We can have one more, and I think that C. That'll be enough. What else do you think we should try?
We need to stance.
Hold on. What do you think we should try? You
Why?
fight him all the time. What do you think we should try?
Well, he doesn't really tend to deviate from the center line, so it makes it a little easier. He only moves forward and back, not all the time, but that's his tendency if you freak him out. So if he charges at you, he's probably gonna throw like 3 shots. It's gonna be like the hip wrap or like the high cross or the board side cross. So like if you know what he's throwing, it makes it easier to like counter him because it's like those 3 shots.
So what would we punish him with then?
Depends on what he's throwing. I don't know.
All right. So
Give him something.
give him a look. Right. So throw the shield shoulder.
He likes to throw that.
So give him the shield like a little bit lower, and then invite him to move in on you. Remember how he invites him to move in on us? Put your shield just a little bit down, and then as he goes to move in and throw, again we'll probably look to step right, and we'll just bring our shield all the way up. So I'm coming into you. You throw at my shoulder. I raise up, and then I look here. Here I would do this, right? Because you brought your shield high. You're worried about me going high. If you're worried about this and you brought your shield low, I would just go over the top, right? So you have 2 options there, but it's get him to throw here, and then whatever I'm going to go here, or I'm going to go here. Either one of these is fine. All right? That's your C plan.
The cool
All right.
thing about the computing thing is now you know she's a rat. And she'll spill the beans on her own.
I made her do it. Right!
Don't put it on camera.
Great.
Oh, by the way, too, while he's there, while he's there,
Go 2 sword.
we'll talk about it afterwards. I don't know, an hour later, or 30 minutes later. All right, go ahead. Y'all go ahead. We'll talk about it afterwards. down.
Okay, it looked like I faced you.
Yeah, it was a little. Okay.
Arm.
Just put him down.
I know why I do that, I don't know why you guys do that.
It is. It's a fucking ring of new one. Alright. What were the plans on road? Did we tell them?
I thought it was the hit
Well,
of it.
first of all,
Yeah.
I give you.
I think it worked very well one time for sure. The second one was exactly what we called, right? We were punishing you. We were going to punish you for your awareness of sword side hip, right? Because you fight as all the time.
Yeah.
So through a good feint, sword side hip went board side, and your shield just went absolutely crazy. So that was perfect. What else was the plans for him?
The other was to, if that succeeded, stutter to that again, and that was that second one where I got tied up. But you still managed to catch the block on the inside.
Yeah, he wanted to come back. So low, high, low. Yep. It's possible that you've seen low, high, low before. It's possible.
Yeah, seeing it and defending it are two very different things.
Yeah.
Especially because your movement was like, yeah, you went from like red to green very quickly. It was
Well,
fun.
that was the other thing that we were talking about punishing you for, is you stayed very much on the center line.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, that's one thing that you could punish him for, is if he's, kind of sidestep, but you weren't doing that, so.
Yeah.
Gotta move lateral now.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And then, if you move lateral more, you won't have to defend your sword side hip with your shield, and you won't have to buy that feint that puts away over the time.
I've been trying to learn that right side movement, but yeah, I hear you.
Yep. All right.
Nice job, man.
We got time for a couple more. Who else really wants to go? You really want to go? Cool. Who wants to fight him? Also, this is a drill you should take home with you. Like if you're doing a fighter practice, you say, hey, let's all work on game planning each other and send someone off and everyone game plans against them, because what happens is exactly what's happening. Right now that guy's going through his head, what are they going to say about me? And how can I make that not be the case, right? Which he wouldn't have thought even, that wouldn't have been a thought that crossed his mind before this class. So this is getting you cognizant and aware of what are people thinking about on me and how can I punish them for it, right? And now we're also trying to think about, how we can punish them for things in general. So if you're talking about the chess match and what happens at the higher levels, this is exactly it. Like, this is their tendencies, this is how I'm going to punish them. Or what can I make them think that I'm going to do, and then I can punish them for doing something back at me, right? To me, that's the most fun part of Ampart. Like, beating people over and over and over again that never change anything is completely boring to me, and I'll just leave. Like, I'll be like, I'm tired of this. Like, it's no fun to me anymore. I've been doing it for 30-something years. But someone who's adjusting and changing and adapting all the time and forcing me to do the same kind of thing is highly entertaining to me, and I'll want to continue to fight with them. And I fight Harry all the time. We've been fighting for 28 years, 29 years, right? And we always have a back and forth. I've seen all of it at some point in time, surely over the years, but just what he's bringing that night and how he's doing things differently always makes it a fun fight, right? So, okay, how should we approach this fight?
In all of his fights previously, he did tick 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, pause. All of his combos were just 2, and there was always a reset repetitively as a combo. And it was never 2 same, it was always a tick-tock. And it was either high-low or high-high. but it was always in twos, which means that to capitalize on that, it's talk. You know he's going to return. You catch both the blocks. You can easily aggress while he is resetting and try to catch him and
Yeah.
caught up in
So,
the pattern.
wanted to try to bait like that TikTok.
Right.
So probably like an exposed shoulder or something like that.
His high TikTok, if you just don't move
Yeah.
it's not going to hit you.
You don't even really need to, he's gonna throw it, like, he's gonna throw two.
Yeah.
So he's either gonna throw like left, right, or he'll probably throw like high, low into your board, I mean, your sword side. So, you know, as long as you are at the appropriate range where they don't hit, or you just slip to the right to block it, or you can sword block it if you really want to. And then what he's saying is, when he's done with that, like he kind of resets to do it again.
Then press on.
You press on him then, and I think that the shield side is the right place
He
to
has
go.
a really exposed shoulder.
Yeah, that's
on that side.
Yeah,
Like I watched that when I was watching him fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, I seen that. It's like hella.
So
When you throw it his board, he'll try to slice to get your arm. He does that a lot at home.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you can anticipate.
Well, so I'm thinking probably if that's going to be the case, then with the aggress, throwing something close behind the board, that way he does respond to that, chop, and then try to throw by.
He was doing something with his feet where he was out in yellow to red, where he was resetting around this with this stuff, but he always aggressed off this.
So is he actually resetting his stance?
I'm not sure he was, but
Or is
I'm
it-
wondering what happens if you come at him and he's
Press
coming
down.
back over here.
Gotcha.
So
I don't know.
We'll out combo the combo.
When he's coming back over, he's getting back where he's comfortable. You'd be better off catching him when he's going to the other side, because he's going to the other side to give you the illusion that he's moving laterally. When he's not. He moves over and says, look at me, but then he moves back, and that's where he engages from.
I mean, that's what I thought. I didn't see him aggress them with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
He does that to get you to turn.
Yeah.
And then comes back in from the other side, because he fights close to where I fight.
Yeah. So.
If you just press him when he does that.
Okay.
Yeah. Press him when
You're
he's
gonna want to get
doing
to
the
about
lateral
left
move, that's not the
Last
lateral.
left forward, right? And this'll be like one, how you'll open for plan A, and two, how you'll just open without letting him do anything, right? So plan A is like you're gonna counter off of him opening, right?
Yeah.
So what they're saying is you need to throw something protected because he might slice at your arm. But if you've let him combo, you don't need to do that. He's already comboed, he's pulling back. So I would just, come back to about right here, get right here. If he throws his combo, just go throw a combo at me. Right? Right. And then come here and then go down here. Tight though. If you go out too wide, he's gonna block it, right? So it needs to be this real tight one. Can you throw that? Is that a shot you know? Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Okay. The second piece, I would just aggress on him before he has a chance to do anything. But they say he wants to counter arm.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
He tries to throw that. When he throws that, I can slot down if he crosses. So like, if I go here and throw behind the board, and he tries to slice down.
Slice at your arm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Actually, I might just try to throw fake behind the board then. We'll see.
I would just throw something like this, right? Get back to this spot again, probably, right? Get about right here. Hit that board. He's gonna chop his arm, chop his arm, chop his arm. Right? Yeah. Okay. So here, chop the arm. Over the top, right? And if he goes what you did and raises his board, right? And you'll have to see this in transition, right? Chop the arm, right there. Chop the arm, right there. Gotcha. He raises his board, we go low. He lowers his board, we go high. Two options, one shot. You just have to see in that step, you'll see, and then you can go either direction. That's the beauty of that opening. So we're just like, we're tapping right here, and then yeah, that's B.
They go low, we go high.
What else? Give him one more. What else can we get him to do, you think?
If he doesn't press enough, you have to. If he was really mobile, if you were really trying to be close, you could try
Can you
to.
spin?
Yes.
I spin. Yeah.
5-1.
I think so.
I can spin, but
Probably
I'm
not
more of a
5-1.
press fighter. Like, I like to press, but I don't usually, but I can throw a spin.
All his engagements, he's right at range where he's fighting you with the last inch of his stick. Get in his face.
Yeah, I mean, I can easily go from like this and then just transition to a board.
And then what are you gonna do? I like this so far, what are you gonna do?
Well, the thing is you say he's doing this right here, so if I go from this to this, he's probably gonna try to go up on my outside. I'll just keep in with it.
Okay, and
Work
you're just gonna step
around.
around in his
Yeah.
butt? Okay.
He's
That's
hearing
fine.
a punch.
All right.
So if you tap that side of the punch, it'll go to that.
It's not a punch.
Now that,
It's just like, it's a
not a
little
punch.
thinner.
Oh, okay.
It's a little thinner than
Looks like
some,
a
so it kind of looks like that.
all right, we're ready. I mean, I would, arm snipers, I punished in the 502s all the time. But
You know what
I
his
don't know if
is?
you have that in you.
Dynasty Warriors theme song.
That's what I would
Yeah.
sniper though.
Be surprised.
We'll edit and post. Dynasty Warriors theme song. You didn't come off the runway, dude. You missed the runway. Get out of my way.
James,
Yes.
20-minute plan for the next.
Are we done? Are we supposed to be done? Okay, this will be the last one.
So wrap it up, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. We just have a lot of people.
I know, I'm just telling you that.
Okay. Good job.
Good.
Yeah, he's sitting countering hip, right?
Yeah, he's kind of, well, and it was hitting my arm more than anything.
Yeah. So the read on him arm sniping is exactly true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the reads on you were that you like to arm snipe
He was
and that
curious.
you're uncomfortable in like board-to-board range. I don't feel like we ever got to board-to-board range, so we couldn't capitalize anyway. But you're doing a good job of shot slipping, so that's good on you. He pressed a lot, so you didn't really have a chance to open. I've seen you open, so I don't think you have that problem. But what else? Real quick. Plan didn't quite work out that time. That's okay. We just need to reevaluate. I don't think you were committing to getting close enough to him, and that was.
Yeah, I was trying to, and then he would like, his snipe game was just eating me up anytime I tried to real press. Yeah.
Certainly looking for hip a lot on this. Right? So you take that away, but you gotta slip to the right though. All right, so in closing, we hope that through this you learned about planning, right? You want a 2-3-step plan at the most, and about understanding that while you're gaming people, as you get higher in level, they're gonna be kind of doing the same thing you, right? So you want to play a chess game, that's the fun part of Vanguard. And since you fight the same people 80% of the time probably that you're fighting, you know, that's the back and forth of it all, right? And then how to evaluate people at the beginning, especially if you've never seen them before, and how you're going to approach fighting them and what you're going to do to gather information. For everyone, it was we used to have a little more time to do like everyone. I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone in the drills because we had such a big class, but hopefully you benefited and learned from it. If you have questions, of course, just hit me up on Facebook. Just shoot me a message. I help my students all throughout the year if you want it, so you know, some of my students literally ask me questions throughout the whole year about things. Hey, this isn't working, like I've run into this struggle, or this suddenly stopped working, like what can I do? I'm completely content, like helping you. Just be ready to get answers at like 2 or 3 a.m. random times of night, because that's usually when I like the most active. But yeah, any questions before we close out? Again, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dave.